The research vessel Archimedes hung in high orbit above Europa, its sensors probing the icy moon's subsurface oceans. Commander Maya Patel stood at the bridge's observation window, watching the intermittent flashes from the experimental quantum resonance scanner as it mapped vast underwater caverns. Their mission wasn't just about exploration. It was about proving humanity's worth to a galaxy that saw them as technological infants. "Commander," Dr. Elena Rodriguez called from her station. "You need to see this." Her voice carried the kind of excitement scientists reserve for paradigm-shifting discoveries. Maya crossed to the sensor station, where a holographic display showed readings that made her breath catch. The quantum scanner had detected something impossible, a perfectly geometric structure buried deep within Europa's ice, its angles and proportions suggesting artificial origin. "How old?" Maya asked, already knowing the answer would change everything. "Predates human civilization by at least 50,000 years, Elena replied, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "And the material composition? It's unlike anything in our database." Before Maya could respond, the ship's AI announced an incoming transmission. "Priority message from Galactic Council vessel, Eternal Wisdom. They're requesting immediate docking." Maya straightened her uniform. The Council's timing was suspicious, almost as if they'd been watching. "Grant permission." The Eternal Wisdom was everything the Archimedes wasn't: sleek, impossibly smooth, its hull seeming to bend light itself. It docked with a precision that made their own systems look clumsy by comparison. The Council delegation emerged through the airlock, led by High Observer Xerix, a being of crystalline geometry whose faceted surface reflected a rainbow of colors. Behind him came representatives from 3 of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, each regarding the human vessel's interior with barely concealed disdain. "Commander Patel," Xerix's translated voice chimed like wind through crystal, "your discovery has attracted attention, though perhaps not in the way you might hope." Maya maintained her diplomatic smile. "How so, High Observer?" "This artifact," Xerix gestured to the holographic display, "is a quantum nexus key, technology far beyond your species' current understanding. The Council has decided it would be unwise to allow premature access." "With respect," Maya countered, "we found it. In our solar system." A sound like tinkling glass. Xerix's version of laughter. "Commander, your species still uses chemical rockets and crude AI. You haven't even mastered basic psychic engineering. The Nexus Key requires capabilities you won't develop for millennia." "We've surprised you before," Maya said, thinking of humanity's rapid advancement since first contact. "Ah yes, your famous innovation," another delegate chittered, their electromagnetic communication field buzzing with amusement. "Like your quaint fission drives and digital computers." Maya felt her crew's tension, saw Elena's hands clench at her station. But it was Dr. James Chen, their theoretical physicist, who spoke up. "If our technology is so primitive," he said, "surely you won't object to a challenge." The aliens turned their attention to him, Xerix's crystalline form refracting light in patterns of curiosity. "What sort of challenge?" "A race," James continued, and Maya saw where he was heading. "To reach the Nexus Key first, through Europa's ice, through its ocean, to the structure itself. If we win, we get to study it. If we lose, we'll accept Council oversight. You would pit your primitive submersible against our quantum tunneling technology." The electromagnetic delegate's field crackled with mirth. "Against vessels that can phase through matter itself." "Exactly," James smiled. "Unless you're afraid that primitive humanity might surprise you." Maya watched Xerix's facets shift through patterns of calculation and amusement. The High Observer was probably already imagining how this would play out. The amusing spectacle of humans struggling with their crude technology, a lesson in humility for an upstart species. "The Council accepts," Xerix chimed. "You have 30 days to prepare. Though perhaps you prefer to concede now and preserve some dignity." 30 days is perfect," Maya said, matching his tone of condescension with one of confidence. We look forward to demonstrating humanity's capabilities. After the delegation departed, Elena turned to Maya. Commander, what are we going to do? Their phase ships can literally pass through solid matter. We can't compete with that. Maya looked at James, saw the same glint in his eye that she felt. We're not going to compete with their technology, Doctor. We're going to think like humans. She brought up the scan of Europa's ice shell, its complex network of cracks and pressures built up over millions of years. They think we're primitive because we still study things like thermal dynamics and pressure systems. But sometimes the oldest tools are the best ones. James nodded, already running calculations. They'll try to phase straight through the ice, but Europa's structure is more complex than they realize. The pressure gradients, the shifting ice. Exactly, Maya smiled. While they're trying to brute force their way through with advanced technology, we'll be using Europa itself to help us. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant. She looked at her crew, saw the spark of determination replacing their earlier dejection. The aliens thought humanity's greatest weakness was their reliance on primitive physics and engineering. They were about to learn it was actually humanity's greatest strength. Get me everything we have on Europa's subsurface dynamics, she ordered. And contact Earth. We're going to need some modifications to the Archimedes. The race to the Nexus Key was about to begin. And humanity was about to remind the galaxy that innovation wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about understanding how to use what you had in ways no one else had imagined. The massive engineering bay of Luna Base hummed with activity as teams of scientists and engineers swarmed around the Archimedes. The ship's sleek research vessel profile was now barely recognizable under layers of new modifications and experimental systems. Dr. Diane Wu stood before a holographic simulation of Europa's ice shell, her dark eyes reflecting the swirling patterns of pressure and temperature gradients. 20 years of studying ice world dynamics had prepared her for this moment, though she never imagined it would be under these circumstances. The aliens think we're playing their game, she explained to Commander Patel, manipulating the hologram to show the complex network of cracks and channels threading through Europa's icy crust. But they don't understand what they're dealing with. Europa isn't just ice. It's a dynamic system of pressures, temperatures, and tidal forces. Maya watched as the simulation demonstrated how those forces interacted. And their phase technology will be their downfall, Diane smiled. They're so focused on bypassing the ice that they've ignored what it's telling them. Look here. She highlighted a particular pattern of stress lines. Europa's ice shell is riddled with quantum entanglement effects from Jupiter's radiation. Try to phase through that. And their fancy quantum tunneling will get real unpredictable. James Chen finished, joining them at the hologram. But we're not going to phase through anything, are we, Dr. Wu? No, Diane's grin turned predatory. We're going to surf. On the other side of the bay, Chief Engineer Raj Patel, no relation to the commander, was overseeing the installation of what he called the thermal lance, a modified version of their ice-penetrating probe technology. The trick isn't fighting the ice, he explained to a group of junior engineers. It's working with it. The device looked deceptively simple, a series of heating elements arranged in a spiral pattern along the ship's new forward section. But its complexity lay in its control systems, designed to read and respond to the ice's structure in real time. Traditional ice penetration is like using a hot knife, Raj continued, running his hand along the spiral pattern. Crude, energy-intensive, and slow. This is more like, well, like asking the ice to dance. The thermal lance would create a carefully controlled pressure wave through the ice, using Europa's own stress patterns to help propagate the effect. Where alien ships would try to bowl their way through, the Archimedes would find the natural weaknesses, the paths of least resistance. In the ship's new control center, Elena Rodriguez was programming the quantum resonance scanner to serve a new purpose. The aliens think we use it just for mapping, she explained to Maya. But with these modifications, it becomes something else entirely. The scanner would now act as both sensor and navigation system, reading the complex patterns of pressure and quantum entanglement in Europa's ice shelf faster than any human pilot could process them. Combined with a new AI subsystem specifically designed for ice dynamics, it would help them predict and utilize the moon's natural forces. Think of it like reading a river's currents, Alina said, bringing up test data. Only instead of water, we're reading ice under millions of atmospheres of pressure, laced with quantum effects from Jupiter's radiation. Every crack, every pressure gradient becomes a potential path. Maya watched her crew work, feeling a surge of pride. Where the aliens saw primitive technology, she saw human ingenuity at its finest. They weren't trying to match advanced alien capabilities. They were changing the rules of the game entirely. "Commander," James called her over to his station. "You need to see this." He brought up readings from their latest sensor sweep of the alien vessels preparing for the challenge. They're installing standard quantum tunneling systems, high-end ones, but nothing special. They're not even considering alternative approaches, are they? Maya asked. Why would they? Their technology is superior in every way. James's smile held a hint of mischief. At least, that's what they think. They're so convinced of their superiority that they're not even studying Europa's structure. They think they can just ignore it. That's going to cost them, Diane added, joining the conversation. Europa's ice shell isn't just frozen water. It's a complex matrix of ice phases, some of which we're still discovering. The pressure gradients alone are going to play hell with their phase technology. Raj finished, walking up with a tablet full of simulation data. Every time they try to quantum tunnel through a high-pressure zone, they're going to hit quantum interference patterns they never planned for. Maya looked at her team, saw the confidence in their eyes. They weren't just preparing for a race. They were rewriting the rules of ice world exploration. The aliens thought humanity was bringing a primitive vessel to a technological showdown. They didn't realize that understanding the fundamentals of physics and planetary dynamics wasn't primitive. It was essential. How long until we're ready? She asked. Final calibrations on the thermal lance will be done in 12 hours, Raj reported. The new navigation systems are online and running final tests. We can launch within 24 hours. Maya nodded, looking at the modified Archimedes. Where others saw crude technology, she saw elegant solutions. Where the aliens expected brute force, they would demonstrate finesse. And when the race began, they would show the galaxy that true innovation wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about understanding the fundamental forces of nature and working with them, not against them. Prepare for launch, she ordered. It's time to show them what humanity's primitive science can really do. Europa's ice-covered surface stretched below like a cracked marble, Jupiter's massive form dominating the horizon. 5 alien vessels hovered alongside the Archimedes, their hulls gleaming with advanced technology. High Observer Zurich's voice chimed across all frequencies. The parameters are simple. First to reach the quantum nexus key claims the right to study it. No interference with other vessels is permitted. A pause, filled with crystalline amusement. Though I doubt the humans will be in position to interfere with anyone. Maya sat in the Archimedes command chair, watching the alien ships position themselves. Their confidence was obvious in their casual movements, their crews probably already planning how they'd use the Nexus key once they claimed it. Final systems check, she ordered. Around the bridge, her crew reported in. Thermal lance primed and ready, Raj called from engineering. Heat distribution systems operating at optimal levels. Quantum resonance scanner calibrated, Alina added. We're getting clear readings of the ice structure to depth of 20 kilometers. Ice dynamics modeling systems online, Diane reported from her new station. Current predictions show 3 viable paths through the major pressure gradients. Race begins in 30 seconds, Zurich announced. May the most advanced civilization prevail. Maya allowed herself a small smile. They still think this is about technology. Alina, Show me what our sensors are picking up from the alien vessels. The display showed 5 different quantum tunneling signatures powering up. Each alien ship was preparing to phase through Europa's ice shell, using brute computational force to navigate quantum states. It was elegant technology, thousands of years more advanced than anything humanity possessed. And it was exactly the wrong approach. 10 seconds, Zerix chimed. Thermal lance to standby. Maya ordered. Pressure wave calculations locked. Confirmed, Diane replied. We're ready to ride the tide. Race commences now. The alien ships disappeared in flashes of quantum displacement, each attempting to tunnel directly through Europa's ice shell toward the Nexus Key. The Archimedes didn't move. What's this? Zyrix's voice carried genuine surprise. Having second thoughts, Commander Patel. Just waiting for the right moment, Maya replied calmly. Dr. Wu, show me what's happening to our competition. Diane brought up the deep ice sensors. The alien ships were already encountering problems. Europa's quantum-entangled ice was interfering with their tunneling technology, forcing them to constantly recalculate and adjust their quantum states. Each correction slowed them down, each adjustment burning through their energy reserves. Now, Maya ordered, take us in. The Archimedes descended toward a seemingly random point on Europa's surface. The thermal lance activated, not melting the ice as the aliens probably expected, but creating a precise pressure wave that propagated through the ice shell's natural stress lines. First pressure junction in 3 seconds, Diane called out, riding the wave in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as it caught the pressure wave, using Europa's own tidal forces to propel them deeper. Where the aliens fought against the ice's structure, the Archimedes worked with it, following paths that had formed over millions of years. Alien vessels detected, Elena reported. They're struggling. The quantum interference is forcing them to drop out of phase repeatedly. On the command display, Maya watched as the alien ships flickered in and out of normal space, their quantum tunneling systems unable to cope with Europa's complex ice dynamics. Each vessel was taking a different route, but all were facing the same fundamental problem. They were trying to ignore the very forces they needed to understand. We're approaching the first major pressure zone, Diane announced. Thermal lance aligned with the stress pattern. Impact in 5 seconds. The Archimedes shuddered again as they hit the pressure zone, but instead of fighting it, they used it. The thermal lance created a carefully calculated pressure differential that let them ride the resulting force like a surfer catching a wave. They accelerated deeper into Europa's ice shell, following paths that had been waiting millions of years to be discovered. Incoming transmission from High Observer Zerix, Elena reported, trying to hide a smile. Put it through. Commander Patel. Zyrix's crystalline voice held a new note. Uncertainty. Our sensors indicate you're using the ice shell's natural dynamics. But that's primitive, Maya suggested. Or perhaps just fundamental. Elena, show the High Observer our current depth and speed. There was a long pause as Zerix processed the data. The Archimedes was now deeper than any of the alien vessels, moving faster and using a fraction of the energy. While they struggled against quantum interference, humanity's ship flowed through the ice like it was born to it. Impossible, Zerix whispered. You're not even using quantum tunneling. How are you? Understanding the basic forces of nature isn't primitive, High Observer, Maya replied. It's essential. Your ships are trying to ignore Europa's structure. We're letting it guide us. Another pressure wave caught them, accelerating the Archimedes even faster along their calculated course. Above them, the alien vessels continued to flicker and struggle, their advanced technology proving worse than useless in the complex dance of pressure and ice. Next major junction ahead, Diane called out. And Commander, you're going to want to see this. The ice dynamics. They're creating a direct path to the Nexus Key. It's like Europa itself is showing us the way. Maya watched as the path unfolded before them, a natural corridor formed by millions of years of tidal forces and pressure gradients. The aliens had been so focused on bypassing these forces that they never considered working with them. "Status of alien vessels?" she asked. "All 5 are still in the upper ice shell," Elena reported. "They're burning through power reserves trying to maintain quantum phase. At their current rate, they'll have to surface for energy regeneration within the hour." Maya nodded, feeling a deep satisfaction. The race wasn't over yet, but already the galaxy was learning an important lesson. Sometimes, the most elegant solution wasn't about having the most advanced technology. Sometimes it was about understanding the fundamental forces that shape the universe itself. "Take us deeper," she ordered. "Let's show them what real ice world navigation looks like." Deep within Europa's ice shell, the Archimedes rode waves of pressure that no human vessel had ever encountered. Warning indicators flashed across every console as they approached what Diane had dubbed the convergence zone, a region where multiple pressure gradients collided in a chaotic dance of force and energy. "All alien vessels have surfaced for emergency power regeneration," Elena reported, her voice tight with concentration. "We're the only ones still in the game." Maya nodded, but her attention was fixed on the sensor displays showing what lay ahead. The convergence zone was a nightmare of competing forces, tidal pressures from Jupiter, cryovolcanic activity from below, and quantum effects that made their instruments struggle to maintain coherent readings. "Dr. Wu," she called, "what are we looking at?" Diane's fingers danced across her console, running calculations. It's beautiful, actually. All these forces we've been using to move through the ice. They're all meeting here, like rivers flowing into an ocean. An ocean that could tear us apart," Raj added from engineering. "Hull stress is already at 82% of maximum tolerance. The thermal lance can't maintain stable pressure waves in this chaos." Maya felt the ship shudder as another pressure wave hit them. Their path through the ice had been challenging but predictable until now. This was different. This was where their theory would truly be tested. "New signal detected," Elena suddenly announced. It's coming from the Nexus key. The energy patterns in this zone must have activated it." The holographic display lit up with new data, patterns of energy that seemed to pulse in time with Europa's natural rhythms. As they watched, the chaos of the convergence zone took on a new aspect. What had looked like random interference began to show structure. "It's not chaos," James whispered, staring at the patterns. "It's resonance. The Nexus key, Europa's ice dynamics, Jupiter's tidal forces, they're all part of the same system. The aliens didn't see it because they were trying to bypass it all." "Can we use it?" Maya asked. "Better," Diane replied, her eyes shining with sudden understanding. "We can become part of it. Raj, what if we reconfigure the thermal lance? Not to create pressure waves, but to match the resonance frequency of the ice itself." "Like a tuning fork," Raj mused, already making adjustments. "Use the ship's own vibration to synchronize with the natural frequencies. But the power requirements. We'll only get one shot," James warned. "Miss the resonance, and the competing forces will tear us apart." Maya looked at her crew, saw the mix of fear and determination in their eyes. They'd come too far to turn back now. How long until the alien ships can resume their attempt? "At least 30 minutes, Elena reported. "Their quantum tunneling systems burn through most of their energy reserves." "Then we do this now," Maya decided. "Diane, plot us a course through the resonance patterns. Raj, get the thermal lance ready for reconfiguration. Elena, I want every sensor focused on those energy signatures from the Nexus key." The Archimedes pushed deeper into the convergence zone, each movement bringing new shudders through the hull. Warning indicators multiplied as the competing pressures grew stronger. On the main display, the resonance patterns shifted and flowed like a living thing. "Thermal lance reconfigured," Raj reported. "Beginning resonance synchronization in 3, 2, 1. The ship's vibration changed, shifting from the familiar hum of machinery to something more organic. Around them, the ice began to sing, not with sound, but with patterns of force and energy that their instruments translated into haunting harmonies. "We're matching the frequency," Diane called out. "The ice, it's accepting us, like we're becoming part of Europa itself." The warning indicators began to fade as the Archimedes found its place in the complex dance of forces. Where before they had been fighting to survive the chaos, now they were part of it. The thermal lance wasn't creating pressure waves anymore. It was conducting them, like a conductor leading an orchestra. "The Nexus Key's signal is getting stronger," Elena reported. "Whatever it is, it's responding to our resonance." Through the ship's sensors, they could see it now. A path through the convergence zone, not carved by force but revealed by harmony. The competing pressures that had threatened to destroy them were now guiding them, carrying them deeper into Europa's secrets. "Multiple contacts," Elena suddenly announced. "The alien ships are back, trying to quantum tunnel through the convergence zone." On the secondary displays, they could see the alien vessels struggling against the chaos, their advanced technology useless against forces they refused to understand. One by one, they were forced to retreat, their quantum tunneling systems unable to cope with the resonance patterns. "They still don't see it," James said softly. "They're so focused on forcing their way through that they can't feel the rhythm." "Their loss," Maya replied. "Take us in, Dr. Wu. Show them how humanity dances with the forces of nature." The Archimedes moved through the convergence zone like a leaf carried by a stream, each movement in perfect harmony with the ice around them. The Nexus Key's signal grew stronger, pulling them toward their goal with the inexorable force of destiny. They had entered the race as underdogs, armed with what the aliens saw as primitive technology. But in the end, it wasn't about technology at all. It was about understanding, about seeing the patterns that others ignored, about working with the fundamental forces of nature instead of against them. As they emerged from the convergence zone, the Nexus Key's resting place finally came into view. Behind them, the alien ships hung suspended in the ice, their quantum tunneling systems paralyzed by the very forces the humans had embraced. "Send a message to High Observer Xerix," Maya ordered, allowing herself a small smile. "Tell him that sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the fanciest technology. It's the one that remembers to listen to what the universe is trying to teach them." The Grand Council chamber on Europa Station hummed with excited conversation as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for what many were calling a historic occasion. The massive viewing windows showed Europa below, its icy surface now marked by research stations from a dozen different species, all studying the principles that humanity had demonstrated during their revolutionary journey to the Nexus Key. Commander Maya Patel stood at the presentation podium, her dress uniform adorned with the newly created Europan Achievement Medal. Behind her, a holographic display showed the Archimedes making its historic descent through Europa's ice shell, the data recordings highlighting the harmony between ship and environment that had made their victory possible. The Nexus Key, she explained to the assembled delegates, wasn't just a piece of advanced technology. It was a test, one that had been waiting thousands of years for a species that could understand its true purpose. The holographic display shifted to show the artifact itself, now fully activated and revealing its secrets. It wasn't a weapon or a power source as many had suspected. It was a teaching tool, left behind by an ancient civilization that had learned the same lessons humanity had discovered. That true advancement came not from bypassing natural forces, but from understanding and working with them. High Observer Xerix rose from his seat, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated deep respect, a far cry from his earlier condescension. "The Council has spent the past month reviewing your achievement, Commander. We owe humanity an apology, and perhaps our thanks." "No apology is necessary, High Observer," Maya replied. "We all learned valuable lessons that day." Dr. Elena Rodriguez took the podium next, presenting the scientific findings that had emerged from their success. "The resonance patterns we discovered in Europa's ice have led to breakthroughs in fields we hadn't even considered. The quantum interference that disrupted advanced phase technology. It's actually a natural computational network, one that could revolutionize how we process information. The alien delegates leaned forward, many taking notes as Elena explained how their primitive understanding of fundamental forces had opened doors that thousands of years of technological advancement had overlooked. Several of the species that had once mocked human technology were now leading joint research projects, combining their advanced capabilities with humanity's insight into basic principles. The greatest barrier to advancement, Dr. James Chen added, joining them at the podium, isn't technological limitations. It's assuming that newer always means better, that complexity always trumps simplicity. Sometimes the most elegant solution is the one that works with nature rather than trying to overpower it. Maya watched as understanding dawned in the eyes of beings she once thought would never see humanity as equals. The Nexus Key had chosen its moment well, waiting for a species that still remembered how to listen to the fundamental rhythms of the universe. "We've established the Europa Institute," she announced, bringing up plans for a massive research facility that would span the moon's surface and subsurface, a place where all species can come together to study not just advanced technology, but the basic forces that make it possible, where we can learn from each other's perspectives and find new ways to harmonize with the natural world around us. The chamber erupted in applause, translated through various environmental suits and communication fields into a symphony of approval. Species that had once competed were now eager to collaborate, recognizing that true innovation came from combining different approaches and understanding. Later, at the reception, Maya found herself speaking with a young Zuri scientist, their scales shifting in patterns of eager curiosity. "Your thermal lance technology," they said, "combined with our quantum field generators, we could create something entirely new, something that works with natural forces instead of against them." "That's exactly the kind of thinking we hope to encourage," Maya smiled. "The universe has so much to teach us, if we're willing to listen." She looked out the window at Europa's surface, where ships from across the galaxy now moved through the ice with grace rather than force, each one incorporating lessons learned from humanity's achievement. The Nexus Key had been right. Sometimes the most important advancement wasn't creating new technology, but understanding how to use what already existed in harmony with the natural world. Dr. Wu joined her at the window, grinning as they watched a Zuri vessel practicing the ice-riding techniques they'd developed. "You know what the best part is?" she asked. "They're starting to look at other primitive technologies with new eyes. There's a group studying Earth's ancient sailing ships, trying to understand how they worked with wind and wave. Another team is fascinated by how termites build their mounds using natural ventilation." Maya nodded, feeling a deep satisfaction. Humanity had done more than win a race or claim a prize. They'd reminded the galaxy that progress wasn't always about creating something new. Sometimes it was about understanding something ancient, about remembering that the most fundamental forces in the universe weren't obstacles to be overcome, but partners in the dance of discovery. "Ready for the next challenge?" Diane asked, nodding toward a group of delegates discussing exploration plans for other ice worlds across the galaxy. Maya smiled, thinking of all the mysteries still waiting to be understood, all the fundamental forces still waiting to be heard. "Always," she replied. "After all, we've got a lot more to teach each other." The stars beckoned through Europa Station's windows, each one promising new discoveries, new chances to demonstrate that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their ability to see the patterns that others overlooked, to work with the universe instead of against it, to dance with the forces that shaped reality itself. And somewhere out there, other Nexus Keys waited, left behind by those ancient teachers who understood that true wisdom meant learning to listen to the cosmic dance. Humanity was ready to help the galaxy learn those steps, one fundamental force at a time.